A plane born in 1947, still built today. Nearly 70 years in production, longer than anything else that has ever flown. How? Twice this aircraft was nearly killed. Once by Stalin himself, with a single order that should have ended everything forever. They called it obsolete before it was even born. A biplane in the jet age. Yet one man knew something nobody else did. It flew across 3 continents. It hung in the air at 50 kilometers an hour. But that success hides a darker number. 600 lost machines. Hundreds of lives gone. And today, one tiny American part could erase its brilliant future completely. Stay till the end. Hey, it's Sky here, and today we travel back to glorious Soviet times, with a quick glance at the present, too. Our hero today is the most important brainchild of the Antonov Design Bureau. And no, it's not what you think. Your mind jumps to the AN-225 Maria, the biggest of the big, or the veteran AN-124 Ruslan. But the most important aircraft of the Bureau was its very first creation. Antonov built this plane, and this plane built Antonov. Sounds like a riddle, right? Hold on to that phrase, because it holds this entire story together. Meet the Antonov An-2, known in the West as the Colt, known to us as Annushka, or simply the corn duster. A light, multi-purpose piston biplane designed at the Antonov Bureau at the tail end of the 1940s. The 40s are long gone, yet the An-2 is still being built today. Almost 70 years, longer than any plane on Earth. So this is no museum piece gathering dust. This is a living legend. But how did it even come to exist? To understand that, we rewind to an era when nobody actually wanted this plane. Late 30s, early 40s. The first ideas for a light biplane able to work in remote, hard-to-reach regions. Short takeoff and landing planes already existed, but they were too light, mere toys, unable to haul real cargo. The main dreamer behind a universal, heavier workhorse was one man, designer Oleg Antonov, then working at the Yakovlev Bureau. He wanted a single-engine biplane, rugged, undemanding, able to solve a wide circle of tasks, mostly civilian ones. But the Second World War was already raging. Its arrival on Soviet soil pulled every resource toward military projects. So the dream was buried. It seemed the idea had quietly died. Then the war ended, and everything changed. With the country in ruins, the Western territories almost totally destroyed, a desperate need returned. The need for exactly this plane. Yet its comeback found no warm welcome. The aviation community met it with a shrug, even mild contempt. Here comes the great paradox. The world was tearing into the jet age at full speed. Fast monoplanes ruled, swept wings, screaming turbines, records. And here some people propose a biplane, almost from the First World War era. To everyone, it looked obsolete before it was even born. Just like it might look to you right now. No technical novelty. Not big, not heavy, not fast, not high-flying. Ordinary materials. A boring piston motor. Neither politically nor as engineering did it offer anything exciting. And yet, one man knew something the others didn't. The economy needed this plane. Fighters and bombers, for all their glory, are pretty useless plowing a collective farm. Antonov understood this deeply, and his boss, Yakovlev, understood it too. So Yakovlev quietly let his deputy chase the dream. He sent Antonov off to Novosibirsk and effectively handed him the freedom to build his own project. By 1946, Antonov gathered a tiny band of engineers at the Chkalov aircraft plant. The work began. May 31st, 1946. An order launches the light plane and creates Bureau number 1533. That day is the birthday of the Antonov Bureau, and it's still celebrated to this very day. Back then, the staff barely reached a couple of dozen people. Transferred engineers, factory workers, and a few fresh graduates. They worked like galley slaves. Yet problems piled higher than the roof. Constant shortages of tools, parts, and resources. Requirements kept shifting under their feet. By 47, the first full-size mock-up finally took shape. Antonov began pitching it as an aviation version of the humble delivery truck. Simple, universal, everywhere. A flying workhorse. Summer of 47, the full prototype was ready. First test flight, August 31st. But one big question remained open. The final engine hadn't been chosen. So the team flew the plane swapping motors, testing, comparing, again and again. Only after the whole cycle of trials did they settle on the 62. And then the magic began. The advantages showed almost immediately. Not big, not fast, but astonishingly simple to fly, forgiving in your hands. It performed maneuvers that most planes would consider dangerous. At first, it seemed this thing didn't even fear a spin. Trials revealed something wild. The prototype held controlled flight at around 50 kilometers per hour. It nearly hung in the air. The test pilots fell in love. It flew beautifully. But where to actually build it? That was the real drama. The Chkalov plant was excellent and close at hand, but drowning in orders. No time for farm planes. Then, very conveniently, Comrade Nikita Sergeyevich stepped in. 1948. The plane flew to Zhuliany airfield near Kiev. The demonstration stunned the Republic's leadership. Thanks to Khrushchev's active lobbying, the decision came. Launch production at Kiev Plant 473. The plane finally got its official name, Antonov An-2. But getting a factory didn't mean getting real production. The Kiev plant sounded grand, but was really a small site, meant mostly for repairing existing machines. Retooling it was slow and painful. The first serial machines crawled out only by late 49, riddled with defects. The production line was corrected, the planes reworked. By the end of 1950, they finally shipped in decent batches. Then came an obvious move. Relocate the entire Antonov Bureau to Kiev. Good for designers, good for the factory. Good for Ukrainian authorities, too, who badly wanted their own prestigious aviation bureau. But hardest of all, on the people. Gather hundreds with their families and haul them 3,000 kilometers to a new home. No simple task at all. And just as things settled, in 52, the whole project nearly met its end. A second brush with oblivion. An order came to launch the jet bomber IL-28 at the Kiev plant instead. Cold War priorities. With tension rising against the United States, a frontline bomber outranked a humble farm plane. Even Khrushchev's support was powerless. The order came from Stalin himself. It seemed like the end. But the shutdown didn't last long. 1953, everything flipped. The An-2 returned to Plant 473. And here the real triumph begins. Over the next 10 years, Kiev turned out 3,164 aircraft. The floodgates opened. 56, the documents and specialists traveled to China. At the Nanchang plant, production began under the name Fengshao-2. That run lasted until 68 727 machines. From 1970, output moved to another plant as the Y-5. There, under that index, the plane is still built in small batches to this very day. But the real record belongs elsewhere. From '59, the biplane rolled off the PZL Mielec line in Poland. That factory built them longer and in greater numbers than anyone. Nearly 12,000 aircraft, the lion's share of all production. 1966, output was also set up near Moscow at Dolgoprudny. 506 modernized machines came from there. So what kind of design gets built across 3 continents? Let's climb under the skin of Annushka. The An-2 is a single-engine biplane. Fuselage and wing frames, this time both wings, fully metal. Power plant, a piston radial engine, 1,000 horsepower, spinning a 4-bladed propeller. Simple, proven, nearly unbreakable. The upper wing carries automatic slats, slotted flaps, and ailerons. The lower wing gets flaps too. Lift everywhere you look. Fancy landing gear? Not needed. You can swap the wheels for skis in minutes and land on snow. The An-2 was built for unprepared strips and tiny local airfields from the start. Its dependence on ground infrastructure is minimal. Equipment for servicing, starting engines, even refueling is usually carried right on board. This plane brings its own support crew. Maximum takeoff weight, 5.5 tons. It carries up to 12 passengers or 1.5 tons of cargo. Cruise speed around 180 kilometers per hour, topping out near 300. Range can reach 1,000 kilometers. Takeoff run just 120 meters. Landing roll even shorter. This plane needs almost nothing to fly. That rugged independence made it irreplaceable, and it explains exactly why, decades later, nobody can quite retire it. In total, over 18,000 machines in every imaginable variant. It holds the Guinness record for the longest production run ever. Around 24 modifications, passenger, medical, firefighting, cargo, research versions, and even ground effect vehicles skimming the water. It spread across the post-Soviet space, across Asia, into private fleets worldwide. Even the United States, Canada, and Northern Europe. There it often isn't even certified, yet enthusiasts fly it anyway. In Russia, about 500 still carry small aviation. But time takes its toll. And here comes the honest note. Popularity has a price. Across its whole service life, 621 aircraft were lost, with around 770 lives gone. A sobering number. So yes, a plane born in '47 has aged. But listen closely, because how it aged is the real point. It didn't age conceptually. It aged technically. The engine, the noise, the economics no longer match the demands of our time. The idea is still brilliant, and there's simply no real alternative for local carriers. So the modernization attempts began, and there were many of them, with wildly different fates. The first recent try was a plane called the An-2. The key novelty? Swapping the piston motor for a turboprop, 1,375 horsepower. They rebuilt existing half-worn airframes, built from 2000 to 2009 in Omsk. But the high cost scared off local operators. Just 25 machines. The turboprop idea wasn't forgotten. Antonov developed a new version, the An-2 with a 1,500 horsepower engine. Order books of hundreds of planes were announced, from Cuba, Azerbaijan, Russia. But now, due to certain circumstances, the status is murky. Those Russian orders have, let's say, thinned out considerably. Meanwhile, in Russia itself, a different revival was taking shape. And here's the beautiful twist. It was led by descendants of those who stood at the project's very roots in the 40s. The bureau in Novosibirsk, which helped birth the plane back then, now offered its own modernization. A symbolic loop of history. Since Russia built no suitable turboprops, they installed a widespread Honeywell engine, found on dozens of aircraft worldwide. Its newest versions even power American drones. With composite parts, the plane grew lighter and its performance climbed. Takeoff and landing shrank to 50 or 80 meters. Range, 1,300 kilometers. Payload, 1.5 tons. The whole conversion, they claimed, should take only a few weeks. Dozens of machines were upgraded this way. The plan was for several hundred, but the economic crisis brutally cut those dreams. Still, they saved their real surprise for last. The next step was a technology demonstrator, built on the An-2 base, called the TVS-2DTS. First flight, summer of 2017, unveiled at the Max Air Show. And though born from Annushka, it left her far behind. Cruise speed, 350 kilometers per hour. Payload, 3.5 tons. Range, 1,200 kilometers fully loaded. Same Honeywell engine, but a radically rethought design. A brand new all-composite airframe, sleek, modern, almost futuristic. These Novosibirsk folks are simply brilliant. The new plane so outshines the old, it could put modern airliners to shame. Technically, it's a miracle. But there's one catch that could erase everything, and it comes down to a single part. The engine is American, and these days that's badly out of fashion. Import substitution is the word of the hour. And in the States, the idea of shipping engines to those pesky Russians won't win much support either. Previous attempts crashed into the crushing poverty of local carriers. And for free, nobody will fuel a plane very far. But here's the thing that matters most. People see the task, and they search for the answer. And an answer will be found. Antonov built a plane, and that plane built a whole bureau, outliving its own era. That riddle is finally solved. That's all for today. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel. Fast flights and soft landings to you.